Hello and welcome to this session. In this session, let me start with an interesting quote, and in this session the basic agenda for the discussion is Introduction to C Programming. The best way to escape the problem is to solve it. This is the popular quote given by Alan Saporta. So whenever we are facing some sort of problem, we may not be in a position to escape even. So the best way to escape is to solve the problem itself. So for the humans, to solve the problem is a thing wherein which we will think how to proceed, how to make an approach. So what should be the procedure to solve that particular problem, physical problem that we are encountering. Suppose this is the case with some sort of problem to be converted as a solution mechanism to solve the problem using the computer, then what to do? So knowledge, whenever we are trying to solve it using a computer, so computer is a dummy machine, it doesn't know anything. So in order to solve the problem using the computers, so it is us who are writing the steps, who are giving the instructions to the computer in a generic way, so that whenever there are the parameters changing in the problem can also be taken care of. So in this way we are trying to use some sort of communication mechanism by the user to instruct the computer to solve the problem. So before going into the actual C programming language, let us define some technical terms associated with this. Knowledge is a programming language and is prerequisite to the study of most of the computer science courses. Why I am saying you this is, so whenever you are thinking of studying a bachelor's level program or else it is a master's level program in computer science, most of the things are related or else are being taught using some sort of programming language. Suppose if you want to learn a programming language, so there should be some sort of knowledge of that particular program, or else suppose if you have the knowledge in other programming language also, it also can solve some half of the purpose. Why? Because suppose if you take the case of Pascal, which is a very earlier language. So suppose if you know the programming in Pascal, like you know the introductory topics, the basic concepts, the language syntax, semantics of the Pascal, the conditional structures, the statements, the branching statements in the Pascal language. So suppose if you are trying to learn a language called C, then this will help in most of the way. Like whenever there is a kind of comparison, how this is done in Pascal. So this is the way, this is the syntax that we are following in Pascal. So you can try to interpret the same thing in the C also. So in this way we have to change the syntax. These are the conditional loops that are available. These are the branching statements that are available in C. So in that way you can map some of the things and you can directly learn the language. A programming language, what I told earlier, is the principal interface with the computer. This is nothing but the user is trying to communicate with the computer. He wants to say something, he is instructing the computer to do something. So this is how the programming language comes into picture between the user and the computer. So understanding the variety of programming languages and the design trade-offs between the different programming paradigms makes it much easier to master new languages quickly. Suppose if you have the little knowledge of Pascal, then you can be very much comfortable in learning C. Suppose if you don't know the Pascal also, it also does the purpose, but you are learning the language afresh. So you are trying to learn the language right from the character set. What is the C character set? What are the symbols? What are constants? What are the identifiers that are there? So in this way you are trying to learn. Suppose if you have a little bit knowledge of earlier programming, any programming languages, then it will become a sort of easy mechanism to study the language. Suppose if you are trying to learn C++ programming and if you have the knowledge in C, then it is a very easy mechanism. Like the C is following the top-down approach and the reverse thing, like bottom-up approach is being followed in the C++. So you can also relate the paradigms that are, so even though you know one of the paradigm, then also you can learn the other paradigms very easily for the other programming languages. Then let me start with the technical term called as the algorithm. So what is an algorithm? So whenever we are trying to solve a problem, we are in our mind we are thinking some sort of mechanisms or else some sort of stepwise mechanisms to solve the problem. First we have to do this particular thing, after that we have to do this one. So likewise we are following a sequence of steps to solve the problem. So whatever we are thinking in the mind, whatever the steps that we are thinking in the mind sequentially, those particular steps, suppose if you are interpreting to write it on a paper using some sort of little syntax, then it is called as an algorithm. So it can be defined as it is a series of steps arranged in a logical sequence to solve the problem. So here, whenever we are talking of the algorithm, this is a general part to solve the problem. Like here we are not at all introducing any programming language constructs or else any programming language syntax. This is the raw written English-like text, stepwise logically placed instructions are called as the algorithm. This is no way, like we can't relate this algorithm to any of the programming language. This is a generic idea. So we may be using, suppose if you are writing the algorithm, we may use any programming language. Depending upon the requirement, we can solve the problem. Then comes the flowchart mechanism. What is flowchart mechanism? This is nothing but we have designed the algorithm. Suppose if we want to put that particular algorithm in the form of a pictorial representation, that is called as a flowchart. So in this flowchart, whenever we are talking about the flowchart, there are certain confined symbols, well-defined symbols. For inputs, we have the parallelogram. For decision making, we have the symbol that called as the diamond. Suppose in order to connect one part to the another part in the same flowchart, we will be using the circle. So for the data flow, we will be using the arrow. So these are the certain symbols which we will be using in order to design the flowchart. So the first step that we are taking is the writing of the algorithm, and the second step is to make it understandable with the help of a pictorial representation called as the flowchart. Then comes the writing of a program. So in order to write a program, we need to have the knowledge in a programming language. So what is a programming language? In practice, it is necessary to express an algorithm using some programming language to instruct the computer to solve the problem. So why we need a programming language? Why? Because suppose if you want to communicate to the other person who knows Hindi, you know Hindi and the other person is also knows Hindi, you are in a very good comfortable way, you are communicating with him. Suppose if you know English and the other person doesn't know English and he knows only Hindi. So there should be some sort of mechanism wherein which a interpreter kind of mechanism, the third party, wherein which he is in a position to understand he is in a position to know both the languages, and then he may be interpreting the other person whatever you are telling in English. So this is the second mechanism. So here also the computer is a system wherein which it may not be in a position to understand the language that we are speaking, like the English language that we are trying to communicate to it. It doesn't understand. It knows only the dialect called as the machine language. So the human being may not be in a position directly communicating with the computer using the machine language, because it is very tedious process to communicate with the machine language. He has to know more instructions, how to make it, the way to make the thing communicated to the system using the machine language. So then comes the idea of the programming language. So for each and every programming language, whatever we are hearing or learning, that particular programming knowledge, programming language consists of some sort of syntax and the semantics that every person needs to learn in order to program that programming language. So then comes the idea called as the program. This is nothing but we have the programming language and we are representing the whole algorithm, the idea to solve the problem using the programming language. So this is the procedure This is the procedure wherein which we are writing a sequence of instruction using the programming language. Those particular sequence of instructions are called as the program. So then with this particular little background, we move into the C programming language. So there are certain categories, division of categories for these programming languages also. There are mainly two broad categories. One is the low level languages and the other is the high level languages. So low level languages are nothing but these are completely machine oriented programming languages. So whose design is governed by the circuitry and the internal structure of the machine, that is the architecture of the machine. So it is very difficult to learn because it is having some sort of limited set of instructions. Like suppose if you take a case of 8085 computer, basic computer, and if you know know how to program using the machine language instructions with that particular system, and if you have another system called as 8086 which is having a higher level of instruction set, so you need to have the complete knowledge of 8086 set also in order to program that machine using the machine language. So it is a bit difficult to program using the machine language, and the complete orientation, we can call orientation, is towards the this is towards the machine only, like the efficiency of the machine, we can say. These are designed to give the better machine efficiency other than the problem solving method. So it is completely a kind of machine dependent, and the examples we can quote here are, one is the machine language, and partially the assembly language also we can consider it as a low level language. So here what the low level language is nothing but we are directly communicating with the system. It is pretty faster than the communicating it through the higher language, because whatever we are saying directly to the system. So there is no kind of there is nothing called as an interpreter or a compiler coming into the picture wherein which it is transforming the commands given by the user into a language that is understandable by the computer. Here this is a kind of direct interaction, but the problem here is we have to know lot many things depending upon the architecture of the system, depending upon the circuitry of the system, we have to program the machine. So these are some of the advantages as well as the disadvantages with the low level programming language. Coming to the high level programming languages, these are completely oriented towards the procedures for solving the problem. This is nothing but here the orientation is completely towards the problem solving. So we are nowhere considering the mechanism or the internal circuitry of the machine or how the architecture of the machine is lying. So we are completely concentrating on the efficiency of the problem solving only. So this is the basic difference between the higher level languages and the low level languages. In the low level languages, the orientation is towards the machine efficiency, and in the higher level languages, the orientation is towards the problem solving mechanism. These particular languages are, higher level languages are machine independent, and they are very easy to learn. Like in order to have a command in the machine language, you need to have the whole complete architecture and the idea about the instruction set related to the processor. Here what we are trying to solve is we have to have the complete knowledge in the programming concepts, we have to have complete knowledge in the character set that the system have, the keywords, then the constants, the identifiers, the syntax, the semantics, and the components that are there in the programming language. That is what we have to learn in the higher level language. The other parts will be taken care by the interpreter or the compiler, and they will convert it into the machine language. And this particular thing we are not directly communicating with the machine, but there lies some sort of interpreters and the compilers which will be bridging the gap, like the converting mechanisms, and trying to understand the statements that we are given in the higher level language and trying to convert them into the machine language understandable by the computer. The examples for these languages are Fortran, Pascal, Java, C, C++. These are some of the languages wherein which we can quote them as the higher level languages. So let us come to a very popular programming language called as the C programming language. Why C is that much popular? Till now it has the popularity and the charm existing till recent days. Why that particular charm or why that particular popularity is there for the C programming language? This particular C programming language, we can say it as a middle level language. which is having the combinational features of both the low level language as well as the high level language. So this is the beauty of C, wherein which it can solve the purpose right from the systems programming to the application programming. Like this particular C is developed at AT&T Bell Laboratories in 1970s, and this has been designed by Dennis Ritchie. So this particular C language is the outgrowth of earlier languages called as Basic Programming Combined Language. In short, you can call that one as the BPCL, and there is another language called as the B language. So this is the outgrowth of those particular two languages, BPCL and then the B language, and it is been defined as a language called as the C. C is not a short form, but C itself is a programming language, name given to the programming language. So let us learn the salient features of the C. So it is a general purpose structured programming language. Why I am saying you the general purpose language? Because earlier to the C, there are several languages like Algol is there, COBOL is there. There are several languages wherein which those particular higher languages are taking care of only particular area. Like suppose if the area is towards the business, in order to solve the business problems, there is a language called as the COBOL. Suppose in order to solve some sort of other programming parts of the things, there are certain languages called as Fortran. Suppose if you are into the formula translation, like if you are into the mathematical type of thing, then there is a language called as Fortran. So earlier in 1960s, there is a decision taken in one of the committees wherein which there should be we should design a kind of language wherein which it should solve all the basic purposes, right from the business needs, the mathematical needs, the industry needs, the system programming needs, and also the wide area of the application programming needs. So this particular C programming language is designed in such a way that it is solving all the requirements of the business, all the requirements of all the general purpose features. So why I am calling you is the C is called as the structured programming language. Structured programming language is the practical approach, or else it is an approach wherein which the whole program is being structured in the form of a structured way. It is easy to read, it is easy to debug, it is easy to maintain, and also it is easy to flexibly change the program. And the structured programming language also supports a kind of approach, like it may be a top-down approach or else it may be a bottom-up approach. It is not just a diversified area, it is just a structured way to approach a program. And then in the C, if you are considering the structured approach, this can be fulfilled with the use of a functions, or else it can be, the modularity can be brought into the programming of C with the use of the functions. So this particular typical approach strengthens the C programming language, and the name comes as the structured programming language. Then it can be considered as a high level language. However, we can place this particular language as a middle level language, a kind of third category, wherein which it combines both the features of the high level as well as the low level mechanisms. Why we are saying it as a high level and why we are saying it as a low level? Because it is having the features, all the features that a higher level programming language has, and it is having a limited features wherein which we can directly talk to the circuitry, directly talk to the, or else program the memory. So these kind of things using the bits and bytes mechanism. So using this particular low leveling mechanism, it has both the combination of the high level as well as both the low level, and it is bringing it to a third category called as the middle level programming language. And the programming, whatever that we are writing in C, are portable in nature. Portable in the nature is nothing but, suppose if you are writing the program using a system, like you are using the editor called Turbo C and you are writing the program on a standalone system. And if you are placing the same program, if you are porting that particular same program onto some Unix machines or some other machines, then with limited changes or with no change even, it can run on that particular machine also. So this is a kind of portability mechanism that the C has. This is the beauty of the C language. Then it is very much easy to debug. It is very easy to test. It is very easy to maintain. And then it is very easy to flexibly change. Like the flexibility mechanism is also flexibility mechanism is also there in the C programming language. Why we are saying the flexibility means, suppose if you are doing the programming in a structured way, structured C manner, then you can understand the program very easily, and whatever the approach, the top-down approach that we are following, it will easily convey the user. So this particular function is lying here. So in order to change the components, we can easily change the you can easily enhance or you can easily delete or modify the program within the function itself. So this is the way we can change the program in the C. And then let us look into the structure of a C program. So before going into the actual details and the technicalities of the C programming language, let us see the structure. So in this way we will write the C programming. First we will present the processor directives, then preprocessor directives, then comes the global data declarations, and then this is the main program wherein which this is the start point of the execution, and the start point of the execution is being started with a curl brace. Then comes the declaration part. It may be a data declaration part, or it may be variable declaration part, or it may be a functions also, like function prototypes declaration. Then comes the program statements, wherein which we suppose if you are using certain functions, user defined functions in the program, those are being defined in the later stage after the end of the program, like function 1 definition, function 2 definition, function 3 definition, like on. So this is the actual structure of a C programming. What are preprocessor directives? What are the global data declarations that we are going to see in our later slides of the session. So let us see whatever that we are given in a raw way, like the structure of a program. Let us write a simple program in C. This is the way we write. Like here it is starting with a comments line. In C the comments line starts with a forward slash and then a star. We can write the comments here, and then the comment should be ended with a star and then a backward slash. So this is the way we have to write the comment in a C programming. And there is another method wherein which we can, suppose if the comment is only limiting to a line, then we can write it using 2 forwarded slashes, and there no need to end that particular 2 forward slashes anyway. Suppose if it is having multi-line comments, then we can start the comment like the forward slash star, and we can end the comments with the star and the slash. Then we are writing the preprocessor directive here with the use of the hash symbol, hash include stdio.h. So here we are using, or here we are writing the preprocessor directive wherein which it includes a standard input output header file. Then this program, the main program, is started with a keyword called MAIN, braces open, and then it has been ended. And the program statements are started with a curl brace, and as many program statements as there are, we can write them, and then we can end the program with a curl brace. So this particular program will give the output on the VDU that I am in the first semester of MCA. So this is the output that we will be getting after the execution of this simple C program. And this is the program to add 2 numbers. Like here we are taking the comments on the first line, and then the preprocessor directives is there, and later on the declaration part is coming here. Then there is a printf statement, the scanf statement, and then we are adding the number here, and we are printing the sum. Here at this instance, don't panic that what are these particular symbols, what are the keywords, what are these declarations and all. Later on we can discuss, but I am just having you look into the format that we will be following in the C program. So then coming to the actual programming concepts. So whenever we are talking of any programming language or any language, we can say, so it must be consisting some sort of character sets. Character sets in the sense that what are the things that are going into, like what are the preliminary things that the whole programming language consists of. Like here this C character set consists of the uppercase letters from A to Z we can use. The lowercase letter, small letter A to Z we can use. Digits from 0 to 9 we can use. And there are certain special characters as a basic building blocks of the C programming language, wherein which the constants are there, the variables are there, the operators are there, the expressions are there. These are called as the basic building blocks, and these will form the subset of the C character set. And there are other special symbols like the percentage symbol we can use, the ampersand symbol, the plus, the underscore, the minus symbol, the hash symbol. Other than these, there are several symbols wherein which we can use in the programming language while doing the C programming. Then comes the identifiers. For each and every programming language, we have certain identifiers, like the names that we are using in the programming. Like suppose if you want to use a variable, it is a kind of identifier. These identifiers are the names that are given to the various programming elements such as variables, functions and the arrays. Suppose if you want to give a variable name as amount, this particular amount is nothing but a variable name, and it is called as in general called as an identifier. Suppose if you are giving a function name as a square root, so that particular function name is nothing but an identifier we can say. Identifier consists of letters and digits in any order except the first character must be a letter. So there are certain rules and regulations which governs the naming of these particular identifiers. The first rule you have to remember is the identifiers should start with a character or else with an underscore. So it may consist, the identifier may be consisting of a group of letters and digits. However, that should start with a letter or else with an alphabet or else an underscore only. Both the higher uppercase and the lowercase are allowed in C programming language. So you can name the identifier either in capital letters, either in small letters, either in capital letters with the digits, either with small letters with digits, or else a mix of capital letters, small letters and the digits and the underscore also. And we can say that this particular C language is case sensitive. Suppose if you are writing a sum with small letters, SUM, all of the letters are in lowercase. That is different from the identifier or the variable name with the capital letters SUM. So C language is case sensitive. Then no special symbols except the underscore, underscore is allowed. So this is the point you have to remember. You cannot use any percentage symbol, hash symbol or any other symbol except the underscore in order to name the identifier. So the identifier can be started with an alphabet, either it may be lowercase or uppercase, or else you can start the identifier with the underscore also. So an identifier can also begin with an underscore. So this thing you have to know. Like the examples I have given is X is an identifier, X12 is an Y12 is an identifier, some underscore 1 is an identifier, and here you can see underscore TEMP is also an identifier in C programming language. So then comes the keywords. So whenever we are talking about the keywords, we have certain set of identifiers in place and certain set of keywords in the place. Keywords are nothing but these are the reserved words for the computer programming language. So they have a fixed meaning, like a standard predefined meaning in any programming language. Suppose if you are using a reserved word and you are trying to interpret that particular reserved word into a kind of identifier, that never work. It may be giving some sort of error. Or else suppose if you want to write one identifier and if you want to interpret that particular identifier as a keyword, then also as keywords are being defined within the language itself, we may not be in a position to define our keywords and induce into the programming language. These are used for intended purpose only. These cannot be used as programmer defined identifier. So we have to remember here, it cannot be used as a programmer defined identifier. Some of the reserved words are auto, break, case, switch, for, while, do while, go to, break. These are some of the keywords that we can define here, and later this particular list is been already given in your study material, and those are whatever the list that is there in the study material, that is the confined list. We can't enhance the list for the C programming language. That we have to remember. So for each and every programming language, we we need to have some character sets, some sort of identifier, some sort of keywords, and some sort of data types also. So for each and every identifier, suppose if you are mentioning one, if we are considering one variable, and if we want to interpret that variable as an integer throughout the program, so we have to somehow say that this variable, the name with this variable is an integer. So what are the basic data types that are available in our C programming language? So the list is provided on this slide. There are 4 basic data types. One is the integer, in order to interpret a variable as an integer. And the typical memory requirements, here we had mentioned it as a word. Suppose if it 2 bytes, like 16 bits it will occupy. Suppose if in any computer, if the word length is like 1, then you can interpret that integer as a 1. Otherwise it is 2 bytes. And the character, we can, in short we have to say it as CHAR in order to declare. Then it is to represent a character data type, and it occupies 1 byte of memory space in the memory. And then float is there, wherein which in order to describe any decimal number, we have to write FLOAT in the declaration part, and it occupies 4 bytes. And there is another decimal representation data type called as double. And in this particular thing is used in order to represent a double precision. The basic difference lies between the float and the double is that in the float data type, we take the precision point till 6 digits. After decimal till 6 digits. And in the double, suppose if you want to have higher precision, like suppose if you are computing some program wherein which any one-year calculus or else any kind of thing that we are programming or writing a program for that particular requirement, then we have to have higher precisions, higher arithmetic precisions. In that we have to have something like the digits after the decimal, something ranging from 7 to 14. So in order to cater those particular needs, we have to declare the data type as the double. But we have to remember that whenever you are declaring the data type as double, it occupies the higher space in the memory. Like 8 bytes it will occupy in the memory. So depending upon your requirements, you can use the float data type or you can use the double data type. And coming to the constants part, there are 4 types of constants that we can use in C programming language. One is the integer constants, second is the floating point constants, third is the character constants, and fourth is the string constants. What is the basic difference between the data types and the constants? Like integer, whenever we are talking about the integer constants, suppose if you are writing that pi is a constant, or else suppose if you are taking a variable named pi and if you are defining that particular constant as some 3.1415. So that particular constant, whenever we are using, the value remains unchanged. So we are using the integer quantity there, like the data item as an integer quantity, and that integer quantity should replace wherever that particular thing is coming into picture. And then in the integer constants also we can use, there are 3 types of things wherein which we can use. One is to represent the decimal, like the base 10, and then the other is a binary, and the third is like the other is the octal, and the third is the hexadecimal. So all these 3 kinds of decimal, hexadecimal, and then the octal, these 3 kinds of integer constants we can represent using the integer constants mechanism. Then comes the floating point constants. Here, in order to represent the floating point constants, we have these constants with this floating point constants. Then comes the character constants. Suppose if you want to mention a character constants, here you have to treat this particular constant as a value. This is no more a character. So this character constants, whenever we want to type a character constants, we have to place that character constants between a single quotes. We have to start the single quote, you have to mention the character, sorry, and you have to end the character with the single quote. Suppose if you are mentioning a character constant as C, so you have to start the quote C, then you have to place C, and then you have to end the single quote, and this is called as the character constant. So what is the basic purpose of the character constant? Suppose if in the program, suppose if you are treating a range like capital letter A to capital letter Z, and if you are placing them in the sort of a single quotes, so those are being automatically converted into the character constants. and each and every character constants interprets its own value as per the character set that it is following, either it may be ASCII or anything else. So altogether that we are that here it is fetching the value that the character is associated with. So in this way we can use the character sets values by making them into a character constant. Then comes the string constant. Suppose if you want to represent a character string as a constant, you have to place that particular string in between the double quotes, like we place it in the printf statement. Suppose if you are printing that I am in the first semester of MCA, we have placed that particular string, that particular range of characters in the double quotes. That particular string is treated as a single string constant. Then comes the variables part. These variables are nothing but, as I told before, these are a kind of identifiers which is used to represent some specified type of information within a designated portion of a program. It is used to represent a single data item, a numerical quantity or a character constant. The data item must be assigned to the variable at some point of the program, and later it can be referenced with the name. Like suppose if you are using, in the earlier program as I showed you, there is a variable wherein which we had used one with the name A, one with the name B and one with the name of SUM. So these are nothing but the variables that we had declared with some data type, and this particular data type we are declaring them with the help of a data type, and that particular data type declaration says that this particular value, whatever that is contained in the variable, is the data type that is mentioned against to it. Like int A is equal to 5. So A is the variable name and the data type associated with the variable is the integer value, and the value we can store is only the integer values. That type we can see. And whenever we are talking about the basic data types, these particular basic data types also come with the name identifiers, special identifiers like unsigned int, signed int, short int, long int. So whenever we are mentioning that particular integer, the short int or long int, unsigned int and the signed int, then that particular thing represents that this particular integer is of short type, or else it is having the longest value, or it is having the unsigned values also we can give, or signed values also we can give. So these are the special kind of specifiers, data specifiers wherein which we can induce along with the basic data types like signed character, unsigned characters. Likewise we can describe the basic data types. So with this I conclude this session, and in the next session we will learn more about the C programming constructs. Thank you and stay tuned.